Module 10, Lesson 1 covers likelihoods, and this is the first topic in the world of probability that we're going to dive into. Your textbook is claiming that this is going to be a solid 2-day lesson, but they only give us 6 resources to go through, so I'm thinking those must be some really big resources, or the authors can't really do math. Let's take a look and see what they have here. At the beginning of a football game, a coin is tossed to determine which team receives the ball first. The winner decides whether to receive the ball first at the beginning of the game or to start the second half of the game. Each team has an equal chance in winning the coin toss. How likely is it that the visiting team will win the coin toss if they call tails? Well, it's a 50-50 chance. They have a 50% chance of getting it. These are the kind of concepts we're going to be covering in today's lesson. Our inquiry question asks, how can words be used to describe the chance of an event coming? And when you hear chance, you can think of the concept of odds. How likely is it that event is going to actually occur? So, first off, consider the events shown. For each event, what words can you use to describe the chance of this happening? Record your responses. Well, our first one is a cow will fly. I'm thinking that's a 0% chance, no chance. It just isn't going to happen, guys. Cows are not going to fly. Unless, of course, they're getting sucked up by alien spaceships and things of that nature. That happens. Not. All right, next. The month of July will follow December this year. Not going to happen. 0% chance. You read a word today. I think the odds of that one occurring are pretty darn solid. If you jump in the air, you will come back down. I think that's pretty close to a sure thing as you're going to get, and the older you get, you're going to learn gravity is not truly your friend. If, counting aloud from 1 to 10, you will say at least one even number. Once again, that's a sure thing. You've got 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 in that category that are even numbers. And finally, you will turn 2 on your next birthday. I don't think any of y'all are that advanced that your little 1-something-year-old sitting in my class right now. Not going to happen. Now, the textbook wants us to take and roll a number cube labeled 1 through 6 10 times and record the results in the table. Then decide if the chance of the event happenings are going to be impossible or certain. And we want to know, first off, the odds of it landing on 7. And the second one is going to be the odds of it landing on a whole number. And whole numbers are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So let's get on with this. We're going to take, and I've got this digital number cube right here. And let's see if we can roll it. It just rolled and it landed on 4. 4 is not going to be 7, but 4 is going to be a whole number. So let's do it again. Roll it again. 4. Next we get 6. 6 is not going to be a 7, but it is a whole number. How about this next one? And we roll it again. 1 is not going to be 7, but it is going to be a whole number. And I'm not going to waste your time on doing all these. You're going to find there's a 0% chance of getting a 7 if 7's not on the number cube. So that's going to be impossible. But every number on the number cube is a whole number, so that is going to be a certain thing. We're going to check those answers, and they check. Pretty easy math, isn't it? Now suppose you were to roll a number cube, once again labeled 1 at 6, 1 time. Consider the events shown. For each event, what words could you use to describe the chance of this happening? Record your responses and justify them. First off, the number cube lands on an even number. Well, you've got 3 even numbers and 3 odd numbers on that number cube, so I would say those odds are equally likely to occur. The number cube lands on a 5. Yeah, there's a 5 on there, but there's only 1, and there's 5 other numbers taking place, so on that one I'm thinking it's probably not going to happen. It's unlikely. Or the number cube lands on a number less than 4. Well, what's less than 4? 3, 2, and 1. That's exactly half of your number cube. So once again, we are looking at an equally likely occurrence going on here. You will roll the number cube, once again labeled 1 through 6, 10 times, and for each event listed on the table, predict how many times you think it will occur. So let's take a look. We want to know how many times would it land on an even number? Well, out of 10 times, if it's equally likely, that means about 5 of them you're going to land on an even number. How about how many times it's going to land on 5? Oh, there's 6 sides on that cube. Only one of them says 5. So I'm going to say between 1 and 2 times it's going to be. Because if you did it 12 times, then you should have 2 times it lands on 5. If you only rolled your cube 6 times, it would be 1 time. So it's going to be pretty close to 2 times. Next, it lands on a number less than 4. Well, we still have that less than 4, which was 3 times it occurs, so it's going to be equally likely as occurring, so odds are 5 of those times it's going to land on a number less than 4. Let's see how it actually comes out when we do that. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and we're going to try and roll a number cube. Let's try their number cube, and it says it's loading. And there we go. So on roll 1 through roll 10, you got it happened right here, and it says first off, the first question we had was lands on an even number. Well, how many numbers are even? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Didn't I say that it would be 5 times that it would happen? Next, it lands on the number 5, and look at that. It did not land on 5 at all. But 5 we said was going to be pretty unlikely, so that's going to be a 0. And then lands on a number less than 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 times it landed on a number less than 4. Now that's a good example of, while it was equally likely, just because it's equally likely and the odds were it was going to land on a number less than 4 5 out of 10 times, that's not a sure thing. It's just the way the probability works it out sometimes. Now suppose you toss a quarter into the air, and there are two sides of the quarter, and it can only land on one side at a time. Each of these results are called an outcome. If it lands on heads, heads is one outcome. If it lands on tails, tails are the other outcome. The desired outcome is going to be the event. So if you voted for heads and it lands on heads, then the event occurred 1 time. However, if you voted for heads and it lands on tails, the event did not happen. Both outcomes are equally likely, of course, because they both have the same chance of occurring, and each outcome is equally likely to happen or not happen. And then you could describe the event's likelihood, and that's going to be another vocab word, in different ways. Moving on to our next slide, the table shows the descriptions of likelihoods from impossible to certain. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of highlight that as a yellow, because we can see that on the left-hand side, on that line graph, you have impossible, not going to happen, no way, 0% chance. Moving up, unlikely, probably not going to happen. Equally likely is a 50-50 chance. Think of that coin. Both sides have a fair shot despite what you think about picking heads. Likely means that you have a really good chance of it happening, and certain, that's a sure thing, guaranteed, cannot lose type of situation. Now let's look at example 1 where they give us a spinner. It says you will be presented with 5 spinners. For each spinner, select the description that best classifies the likelihood of the spinner landing on a number 2. Assume it's spun just once. Well, for this one, there are no number 2s, so that's going to be impossible. It just can't happen. For this one, you have 4 out of the 6 are going to be a 2, so I'm thinking that's pretty darn likely. It's not a sure thing, but odds are in your favor. Next, if there's only 1 out of the 6 sides that are number 2, that's pretty unlikely. Odds are it's going to land on that 1. And then here, all of them are number 2, so you're looking at a sure thing, cannot lose. It's going to land on a number 2 no matter how you spin it. And finally, half of them are number 2, half of them are number 1. That's going to be equally likely. It's not a sure thing, but odds are 50% of the time it's going to land on a 2, and 50% of the time it's going to land on a 1. Now you take a few minutes, pause the video, and work on this problem here. Check your answers. A 6-sided number cube with sides labeled 1 through 6 is rolled. Classify each event by selecting the likelihood. The first event we're looking at is to roll a number greater than 0. All of them are greater than 0, so that's going to be a sure thing. To roll an even number, well, 2, 4, and 6 are even. 1, 3, and 5 are odd, so that's equally likely. To roll a number less than 5, that's pretty darn likely because 4 of the 6 numbers are going to be less than 5. To roll a 7, impossible. It's not on the cube. We already talked about that. And then to roll a 3 or a 4, well, that's only 2 out of the 6. So there you got 2 of them that are, you have 4 of them that are not. That one is going to be unlikely. Check your answers. And with that, we are done with this lesson. Get busy started on your homework assignment. I think this one will be a refreshingly easy assignment compared to what we did in the last module.